Well, thanks, John, for joining me. Thanks for being a part of this. I have a list of questions I'd like to ask you just to get inside your brain and figure, or maybe in your heart or your stomach, and figure out who you are. So in no particular order, I have a list of questions I'd love you to just fire off your answers. Fruit or vegetable?
Fruit.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have a go-to fruit?
I love, actually, is berry another category or is it fruit? I'm really partial to raspberries. I love raspberries.
Okay. A little fuzzy. Okay, good for you. Land or sea?
Sea. I love sailing.
Okay, explain that a little bit. You do sail.
I've been a sailor since I was a teenager. Loved racing. Raced lasers when I was a kid, which is a one-person boat. Still have them and still sail them and don't race them so much because I'm not that good anymore.
Yeah.
But now I race on a friend's big boat. It's a 40-footer. There's 9 of us that form the crew and do Wednesday night racing and the occasional weekend regatta. So yeah, I love it.
That's something you don't understand at all.
One of my bucket list things was to sail San Francisco, and I got to do it on the day the America's Cup opened. It was a fantastic day to sail the America's Cup. So.
Just peel the smile off your face.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Good day. Okay, nice. So you're home in the evening, got the munchies. What's your go-to snack?
Oh my, I like ice cream.
Okay.
That's a family thing, really. And my favorite these days has to be strawberry rhubarb crumble from Fett Ice Cream on Assiniboine.
Yeah, okay.
It's fantastic. Sweet, sour, fruit, crunchy. It's all the good things put together.
But you've also said vanilla is a go-to as long as there's lots of
toppings.
Yes,
vanilla is a topping delivery system.
Okay.
It's not a flavor, it's a topping delivery system.
It's true. Small story, one of my kids works at Almost Bake Shop and there's an ice cream section there, and he comes home every day from his job with an ice cream. And what's the flavor? Whatever toppings were lying on the counter is kind of just...
That is gross.
Yeah. Seems to love it. Do you have a favorite vacation you've been on? And what would be one on your bucket list that you have yet to be a part of?
A bucket list vacation would be an extended sailing one.
Okay.
Caribbean or something like that. And legitimate sailing, like on a sailboat, not on a big ship. Like I have no desire to go on a cruise.
On a cruise.
But put me on a boat where I can actually work with ropes.
Be a part
of, that would be a bucket list thing for me.
Cool.
A favorite one, I love going to the cottage, and honestly, it's a place of restoration for me. And if there's something that vacation's supposed to do, is restore.
Yeah.
But a favorite one that I have experienced was also on the water. Morro Bay, Monterey, Carmel, that area. We would go whale watching, and had some spectacular experiences.
Now let me just pull on that thread a little bit. So you are cottagers, but this is a place you are building or have been building for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's also a place apparently that has no reception. That's a huge win, right? I mean, let's try to turn off the noise.
Yeah.
So you do find that a place of rest and respite.
Yeah. It's on the east side of Lake Winnipeg. We cross the Pine Falls Dam, and about a minute later you lose cell phone reception, and that's when rest begins.
Okay. As soon as you realize you can just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
That's just really great. The other question I had was kind of a favorite vehicle you've owned, perhaps, or one of a bucket list. If somebody wanted to donate a vehicle to you.
Oh.
Okay, that's a
I
different
have
question.
a red F-150. If somebody wanted to donate one, a new red F-150 would be great.
Okay, great. Okay. So
I had a minivan for years. You're definitely not cool driving a minivan.
No.
There's potential for being cool, except I got it too late to be cool. So now I just drive a cool truck, but I'm not actually cool.
Okay. The truck can speak for you. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, like Dodge, Chevy, Ford.
Ford,
really?
Yeah.
Eh? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like you still. Favorite concert you've been to or experienced there, and then bucket list. Who's somebody or a group or whatever that you'd like to see?
Tons of favorite concerts. I don't know that I could name one that is a favorite. We've had this conversation before, and I think of all the concerts that I've been to, the ones that I've enjoyed the most have been the intimate ones. Oliver Jones at the West End playing piano, and like you're feet away from him and you watch his fingers going like crazy. Amazing jazz musician. I've loved the Rush concert in the arena, which is like not anything like Oliver Jones. I love live music.
Sure.
If I could go to anything, Oh, there's a million fantastic jazz musicians I would love to see in person in a small venue, like where we can be this far away.
Sure. Yeah, that does change the dynamic of the show itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like locally, like Steve Bell, for example, you go to see a Steve Bell show, he only fills half the time with music. The other half is telling stories.
Yeah.
And the more intimate the setting it can be, it just
Yeah.
feels like you're in a living room together.
Yeah.
So that can be a really cool thing. And yeah, so you and Rose, pre-pandemic, like to go see some live jazz music.
We'd
around.
often just go grab hors d'oeuvres and stuff at Fort Garry Palm Room, and just sitting after work or later in the evening. And some of our friends have played there. Some of Rose's former students have played there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool. That's really great. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Do you care?
I don't have. It talks politely with my laptop, which is also
Okay.
Apple.
Right.
I just want the devices to get along.
Just please get
I
along.
don't care, just
Okay.
as long as the devices get along.
That's good. That's appreciate that. When you were in high school, were you a jock or a nerd?
Nerd.
Really?
I wish I could be a jock. I don't have the hand-eye coordination for it.
No.
No.
You appreciate sports just from a distance.
I love sports,
Yeah.
and I love individual sports that don't involve hand-eye coordination. Things like running and swimming, sailing. I'm good at those things.
Okay. I appreciate that. So nerd, were you a bookworm or?
I sang in
Or
the
just-
choir. I was the yearbook editor, which is really funny because I'm dyslexic. Who makes a dyslexic guy an editor? I think
the yearbook was backwards, maybe.
Yeah. It wasn't a good experience for anybody.
No. Well, it's fine. So you did sing in choir, so
Yeah.
you somewhat musical-ish.
Ish, bass.
Great.
I can follow the bass line really well. So
Awesome, that works. One of the questions I had here was your happy place, but I think you alluded to it by being at the cottage.
Yeah, and you know what? The cottage is a place where I can be busy with a project, and Rose can be relaxing with a book or on the beach, and we're feet away from each other, still sharing something together.
Yeah. Now she has said recently, or in some context where we've talked, that you both or she's got into gardening.
Oh yeah.
Now I know that because I've stalked you on social media, you have built some planters and all that kind of jazz. So who's the gardener, and who had to convince the other?
Rose is the gardener, and she said, I will never have a garden. Because
why?
gardening was a chore for her as a child. Her parents had massive gardens, and
Right.
therefore she had chores.
Sure.
And she goes, and then she did a small tribute garden to her mom, who's passed away years ago.
Okay.
And that tribute garden has grown and grown and grown.
And
I am simply
vegetables
aiding
or
and
flowers?
abetting. Mostly flowers.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm simply aiding and abetting.
So you're feeding it a little bit. Okay. And recently, apparently, when you go to the lake, it's supposed to be a quiet place. You built a garden at the lake. As
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
To someone who never wanted to garden, now she is kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So if is there a favorite movie or movie? Are you a movie guy?
I'm not really a movie guy. No. I don't handle suspense really, really well. So I will channel surf between movies, which drives Rose crazy.
Sure.
But I love submarine movies, which ironically are very suspenseful.
They are very suspenseful.
But I love submarine movies.
So tension or suspense?
Tension I can handle really well.
Okay.
Suspense, not so much. But you know, in a submarine movie, you pretty much know either they live or they die. There's nothing in between those two options.
Right. Especially if there's a sequel, then you know that they're going to be fine. That's always important. Yeah, I'm not good with tension. Suspense is okay with me. So as far as books go, do you like the mysteries? Are you fiction, nonfiction, biography? What do you like to read?
I love Cold War spy novels, Robert Ludlum stuff.
Okay.
I love Lord of the Rings. There's many times when I've had a book that I should read, and I'll read Lord of the Rings instead. And I'll read it and reread it and reread it. It's just one of those.
Yeah.
It's a story that just grabs you. So,
True.
It grabs me.
Did you find the movies then disappointing or
no?
helpful?
Actually, I was surprised that the stories were so well told without violating the spirit or the storylines. There'd be details that are different, which drives the purist nuts. But
Sure.
I get my details wrong all the time, so I'm not going to hold a movie producer to.
Well, considering
fault for
that The Hobbit is 200 pages and they made 3 movies, that's a little strange. But
it could have gone faster.
But I don't mind. I don't mind either. Well, that's great. I appreciate you walking through this little journey with me. Where I'd like to go now is your faith journey. So you've shared in a number of different meetings we've had a bit about your story, and you can repeat that. You can add some other things to it. But I'd love to know where you and Jesus met, like that introduction. As part of that, how Jesus made an impact on who you are, who you were, who you are, and some things you're still learning about yourself, maybe as part of your relationship. So just tell me I'll pull on a thread here and there, but just tell me your story.
I decided to follow Jesus when I was really young. Mostly I was scared into the kingdom, I would say. My parents were super involved in ministry. They became pastors later. They were leading a youth retreat. There was this apocalyptic movie called Thief in the Night.
Oh no.
And I, as a 5-year-old, snuck into the movie that they were showing to the high school students at the youth retreat.
Yeah.
And they discovered that I had snuck in when I screamed a blood-curdling scream, which produced exactly the desired effect with all the high school students. I ran to the cabin and I hid under the bed. Mom found me. And long story short, I decided to follow Jesus.
Okay.
And I had a really passionate faith as, I'll say, all the way through my elementary years. Moved to Winnipeg as a teenager. And the school that I went to was the size of the town that I left. I could reinvent myself in whatever image I wanted.
Sure.
And I decided I didn't want it to be in the image of my parents or of Jesus. And so I could fake it perfectly, be the great church guy, and then be the great school guy, and just hope those social communities never met. Jesus really grabbed hold of me when I went to Cape and Ray. It's funny that you would go to Europe to Bible school to run away from God, but it was a great launching pad to see Europe, so why not?
And which Cape and Ray did you go
in
to?
England.
England, okay.
They tried to kick me out about 9 or 10 times before November, and that's like 3 months in, and that's when Jesus found me. And part of it was because we were sorting some things out in our dorm room. There were 10 guys from a bunch of different countries and language backgrounds, and one of them said these words, and this has been very pivotal for me. I asked him the question, what is it about me you don't like? Now, I'm asking a friend this question, so I'm expecting like a kind answer, right?
Sure.
And he goes, you're a fake, you're a fraud, you're a chameleon. We don't know who you are. What's worse, you don't know who you are. And that ruined me, because he was right.
Yeah.
Like, he named something that cut through everything. And 3 days later, after weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth, which really freaks out a bunch of 18-year-old, 19-year-old roommates, I found myself face down in the chapel. And I don't know how, but I was singing Holy, 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 which was at the time number 4 in the green hymnal that I grew up with.
Right. Yeah.
Who knows what number it is now in a different publication.
Yeah.
And I knew that song in a hymnal would have scripture references attached to it.
Right.
And so I went and I looked, and there's in Isaiah and in Revelation, and Isaiah, Holy, Holy, Holy is the Lord. And those words that followed it were, woe is me, for I'm a man of unclean lips, and I dwell among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. And that spoke to me, and it spoke for me. At the end of that section, there's a part where Isaiah, listening in, eavesdropping, hears God saying, whom shall we send and who will go for us? And Isaiah says, here am I, send me. I read that section of scripture, and I knew that God was calling me, that God had purified me, he'd forgiven me, but he also had a plan. And I knew instantly, and I couldn't argue with it, that it was to be a pastor. And I had no interest.
Right, which is what you grew up being, a pastor's kid, a PK.
Yeah, I had no interest.
And witnessed all that. There's not we're not doing this.
No. And, but here I am. God has a fantastic sense of humor.
Never say never. God hears those prayers too. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So you have this epiphany moment, this aha, supernatural moment with Jesus. How then do you take stock of, okay, actually, who am I? Because you were something, you pretended to be something else, and then you, to a point where you didn't really kind of know yourself, and then you fast forward a little bit.
I think a significant part of the spiritual journey, and certainly my spiritual journey, has been brutal honesty. If you are living a life of getting along to get along, or deception, or faking it, or whatever it is, that can't endure brutal honesty. And there was just a whole lot of honesty. And you could use the word authenticity.
With yourself, or people
with
being
myself,
honest
but
with
other
you?
people being honest with me too.
Great.
Hard things said to me. But authenticity is a big word in our culture, and I actually prefer transparency and honesty. if you can be transparent and honest, there's an incredible space that God has created in my life, which have changed me. And it's also the thing that I invite people to all the time, because I see transformation happen when those two things happen, when there's transparency and honesty, when we're not hiding from anything, and we're just and honest about the garbage.
But isn't that's the exact opposite of what we want to do?
All right, we want to put up a good show.
Well, exactly. You want people to think the best of you. You don't want to have your garbage on display. But in that moment, for you, is where you found great,
not just in that moment, ever since then.
Sure.
And I would say that it has been one of the points whenever I am falling away from God, it's because I am not being honest. And I know that I'm not being honest because I'm not being transparent with others. Transparency is one of those reminder moments. So a friend of mine asked me a question and I avoided the answer. And I said to him, called him up, and says, I never want that to happen again. I never want to have to avoid a question you ask me. And that was just, I think, part of my journey, and it continues to be part of my journey.
So the sarcastic side of me says, so we can't be friends, don't ask me any more questions.
It's going to get awkward, Steve.
It's going to get awkward, John.
It's going to get awkward.
Fantastic. Okay, so then fast forward a little further. You've had these moments, people are being honest, you're being more honest with yourself than you've ever been. You find yourself going into ministry. What was that experience like?
Once I reconciled myself with it, I didn't fight it anymore. And then I had the blessing of a ton of mentors who showed me how to do it. They didn't tell me how to do it. I just got to tag along a lot.
Wow. Cool.
And a few of them have been life-changing. Would not be overstating it. They've just been really a tremendous gift to me. But I'll tell you that none of them really happened by accident. Apart from one, I sought all the other mentors out. I looked for them. One of them sort of imposed himself on me. But the others were all ones that I said, I need this and you got it, and so let's spend some time together.
Cool. So from there, your first vocation, your first role is at McIver, which is...
No, actually. I was a youth pastor in Fresno for exactly 1 year. And we all agreed at the end of the year that it's not a good idea for John to be a youth pastor.
You got to try it out to figure out what you
We had a great
time,
but we didn't do that twice.
Okay. Good. Please learn from your mistakes.
And then I came to McIver after I graduated from seminary.
Okay. So McIver, you're kind of cutting your teeth on ministry, figuring out how to preach, understanding what
it was terrible.
Yeah. We got to apologize to those people.
Somebody asked, Herb Kopp was the pastor at the time, who's a fantastic preacher. And somebody asked him the question, what kind of preacher is John? He said, there's nothing that 52 more sermons won't cure. Which is a way of saying not very good.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I always consider that people I need to apologize for the first few years of ministry. So then somewhere along the way, your life takes you to TMP, which is downtown Winnipeg, the meeting place. Great people there. Can you share some highlights of your experience there?
I think the thing that I've loved most about being part of TMP is one of the guys at TMP described it as a gritty place. It's gritty. And so it fit me well, the honest transparency. Like there was just no hiding, no pretense.
So gritty means honest, or what does gritty mean in that context?
Well, people's lives were really messy.
Okay.
But also, they weren't hiding any of it. It was just out there for people to see, and you sort of sort through it. So the result is, I would say I got a front row seat on transformation in people's lives. Because it happened in full view. And I just count that an incredible privilege. And maybe the moments that are often most meaningful to me are the ones that that pastors get invited into when there's an ICU call and somebody's on the edge of life and death, when somebody has passed away and you're with a family that's grieving, when people get the bad diagnosis and there's no more pretenses. Now we're going to have the hard conversations. And they invite me into it. And I've just counted that a tremendous privilege.
Huge privilege. That's pretty humbling. Well, we are grateful for the way God is, I'm grateful as your friend to see the way God has shaped you and moved you and grown you. Over the years, when people have left Eastview to go elsewhere, there's a bit of loss and a feeling of loss, but at the same time I'm thinking, I hope they are blessing people where they go, because people have come to Eastview over the years who've been trained and mentored well and just stepped into volunteer roles or ministry, and it's been a great thing. So I'm grateful to you, to McIver and to Fresno and to Meeting Place for having helped shape who you are, and look forward to see what God has for you here. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.